have it. Another year has gone by. I am now 30 years old. I lived in Philadelphia this year, the capital of Pennsylvania. I worked out in an industrial kitchen making ice cream. And Philly is just such a great city for culture and music. I got to see Geese, Billy Woods, Ewan, Japanese Breakfast, Porter Robinson, and Ginger Root, all live in the city. I traveled too. I went to Pittsburgh to show Sky where I went to college, Ecuador to watch my brother-in-law get married, down to DC to see one of my best friends, and me and Sky spent a night in Princeton just for the hell of it. I visited 8 museums, I spent $380 at stationery stores, crossed off a couple hundred things on my to-do list, and held 5 New Year's resolutions for myself. Released 4 zines, finish 1 short story, release 6 videos on YouTube, read 50 books, and watch 150 movies. I managed to finish 1 zine, which you can order now on my website. I did not write a short story this year, and I only released 1 video on my channel. As for books though, I cleaned up quite nicely, reading 63 books out of my goal of 50. I tore through audiobooks during my shifts in the kitchen, and adding it all up, I listened to 25 days, 1 hour, and 28 minutes worth of books. An entire waking month of my time spent reading. And while I only physically read 8% of my books this year, I still hit 2,115 pages. And I read good shit too. I finished 7 series, loved Dungeon Crawler Carl, and got to finish the legendary series Unfortunate Events. And I enjoyed the Gone series, which is essentially if the Dome, Lost, Lord of the Flies, and Marvel all got squeezed in together. As for the top 5 books of the year, starting us off, we have I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This odd science fiction story about a little girl born into captivity, the only child amidst a group of 40 women, disconnected and shunned by the rest, she would have to learn what being a woman, a person, and living a life means without any point of reference. At number 4, we have Martyr by Kavar Akbar. Martyr is about a man who stumbles through early adulthood, trying to find meaning in his history and religion while grappling with the death of his mom at the hands of the United States. At number 3, we have Inevitable Ruin, the longest book I read this year and the latest in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. At 28 hours and 40 minutes, I loved every second of this book. Essentially, aliens have conquered Earth, and they are forcing the remaining humans to partake in a life-or-death D&D campaign. It sounds dumb as hell, but it is the most fun I had reading throughout this entire year, completing the 139 hours it took me to read the series in about a month and a half. At number 2, we have Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. I really do not recommend reading this book to anyone. Taking place in a dystopian future where all animals are diseased and humans have resorted to eating other humans, this is an evil book. The writing is phenomenal, but it will leave you permanently scarred. Now, before we do my very favorite book of the year, I gotta throw on one that I hated, The Rising by Brian Keene. If Eli Roth was able to read and write, this is the book he would have written. Every opportunity to write racist characters and provide lurid descriptions of women in captive was taken. This book. But now, for my very favorite, Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova. Margos and Joseph have just lost their son. He died at 12 because he was born with a single lung. It's actually incredible he lived that long to begin with. But overcome with grief and needing to keep a part of him with her, his mother Margos cuts out his lung. An old folklore takes root in her mind, and she is soon able to coax new life from that lung. Now we have M. M is not her son. M might not be human. He's something else. And Margos and Joseph once again find themselves navigating the labyrinth of parenthood, without really knowing what they are raising in the first place. Monstrilio is such a beautiful examination of family. If there is any book that I could urge you to read this year, it would be this one. For movies though, I didn't even come close to my goal. I watched 95 out of my 150s. In total, I spent 6 days, 20 hours, and 48 minutes watching movies. The longest film I watched was of course Avatar, Fire and Ash, going 17 minutes past the 3-hour mark. My oldest film is Dark Star, released in 1974. My most obscure film was Listers, a full-length documentary on birdwatching that Letterboxd refuses to acknowledge. Go watch it now, it's free on YouTube. And my most popular genre was horror, which defined 28 films for me. For my Halloween movie this year, I went with a classic, American Werewolf in London. Absolutely loved it. I ended up watching 7 short films, and I recommend 5 of them, especially Donks by Felix Colgrave. Felix has never failed to deliver a beautifully animated film. He's carved out a distinct style for himself over the years. Now, I only gave 3 perfect scores on Letterboxd, 1 to Donks, and the others to Homeward Bound and The World of Tomorrow, which were both rewatches for me. And I'm about to get into the top 25 films released this year, but here's what you should be watching tonight. Now, if you're the type of person that's disappointed by Chris Pratt's normal speaking voice being the voice of Mario, well, you're in luck. There's another Mario. A far grittier, cigarette, gun-filled Italian mobster version of Mario. A live action with romance, dinosaurs, and yes, a 9/11 scene in it too. It's called Mario Brothers. And if you get your 5 closest friends together on a Friday night with some edibles, some beer, and of course, buffalo cheese dip, it's gonna be the best thing you do all year. Say that's not your speed though. You want something with a little bit more substance. Something for the evolved. Look no further than Fragments of Paradise, a documentary on Jonas Mekas, the man who brought avant-garde cinema to America. It's a fascinating, lesser-known part of cinema history and pairs nicely with a bottle of red wine and a home-cooked meal. If you're more of a meat and potatoes kind of person, say you want a classic, no fancy bells and whistles, but one you've never seen before, then watch The Perfect Storm, a film made before ads. It's heartfelt, and the cast is to die for. I watched a lot of recent movies, and with 39% of my films releasing in 2025, I'm gonna have a controversial list of my top 5. I know there might be movies you really liked or really hated, but that's why this is my opinion. At number 5, we have Weapons. I love White as Kids You Know growing up, so when I found out that weird, fun horror movie from last year, Barbarian, was directed by a former member, I was excited to watch his next release. And Weapons did not disappoint. It flipped every cliche about witches on their heads, delivering an uncanny take on such a classic tale. At number 4, we have Begonia. Extraordinary as ever, Yorgos Lanthimos gives us a gradient in morality, gripping characters, and a plot that truly can only end one way. At number 3, we have One Battle After Another. Paul Thomas Anderson just understands how to make a movie. One Battle After Another captures you from the very first frame, and it just never lets go. At number 2, we have The Surfer, the movie I chose to watch on my birthday. It truly feels like getting baked in the hot sun while you watch this film. Nicolas Cage delivers a maddening 140-minute run of his descent into madness, all just to take his boy surfing. And before I can say my number 1 pick for 2025, here's the movie that I hated the most. When my friends asked me if I'd seen the new War of the Worlds trailer, I was excited. I read all the books, and I couldn't imagine what a reboot of the trilogy with modern special effects could look like. So, you can imagine how my face fell as I watched the trailer and realized what they were making. It's just one long Amazon commercial that makes Hallmark films look big budget. And finally, we have arrived at my very favorite film of the year, 28 years later. I'm sorry, I know I'm disappointing a lot of people here. I am a biased man. I love zombies. And if you can get that formula just partially correct in film, then I will love your movie. 28 Years Later really delivered a world that felt lived in both before and after the credits rolled. And I felt that the late stage zombie apocalypse was a really original take from other films that kind of gravitate towards that topic. This is the year that I did it. I brought an iPod Classic with a modified battery and a terabyte of storage. I canceled my Spotify subscription and I went back to the old ways. I actually listened to music again. I added 163 albums to my library, an additional 418 singles. I went from Earl to MF Doom to Ka, and now finally I've come to Billy Woods, one of the best living lyricists in all of music. His ability to shape ordinary experience and find meaning in the everydayness of it all is unmatched. Ethiops was the album that really stood out for me, but the moment it really clicked for me was seeing him live in Philadelphia when he came out on stage, looked directly at the light guy and said, "Turn every fucking light off in this building." We listened to him in pitch blackness. He was my absolute top artist of the year. I added a lot of albums this year and it was difficult narrowing it down to my 5 favorite, but there were those that did stand out. At number 5, we have I Hope You Hate This Shit volumes 1 through 3. Every now and then, I like to have a what the fuck was that moment on the aux. This mix from DJ Little Jerry Springer provides me with 3 hours of that experience. Put it on during a long car trip and everyone will hate you for it. At number 4, we have Mocking Stars. Lost the Cat is a name I hadn't heard in years and barely knew of during the time he was active, but still, when his name began to rip through my For You page, I tuned in. Mocking Stars was not what I expected. The beautiful jazz and hip-hop fusion, told from the perspective of a cat trying to find happiness in our late-stage capitalistic landscape, was a combination I didn't know that I needed. At number 3, we have Debbie Terra Mas Fotos. Now Bad Bunny deserves all of the flowers. He could have just put out the same drivel that Drake gives us every year, but refusing to leave his roots or compromise on quality, he gives us this masterpiece instead. At number 2, we have They Left Me With the Sword / Gun by Paris, Texas. I understand that this is technically 2 albums, but they each tell half of the story. 2 brothers who will sacrifice everything for a couple of baddies. Go watch the music video, it's insane. And at number 1, we have Showbiz. When Mike dropped in February, the whole rest of the music industry was allowed to phone it in. Mike had already dropped the best album of the year. If you don't know who Mike is or listen to him, now's a good time to search him up. For the best verse of the year, I do have to give it to Earl Sweatshirt with his verse on Words to Live By.
Big face Benji, the Wizard of Oz, heart of a lion, you missing some stripes, yeah. Free Gaza, we on the corner like Israelites, ain't look at the wristwatch, still the time. Misran missiles out of the sky, I get the torch him. Yeah, I take the torch, make the temperature rise. Give you the real shit until I expire. The milk, the Miss Pimp, bitch, why is you crying?
But as far as my favorite song I listened to in the entirety of 2025, it would be No Hard Feelings by Billy Woods.
A mad woman whistling, you can hear it if you listen. That's that empty pipe hissing. That's him crying and twitching. That's the vanishing point in the distance. Between us, just the glass thickness. Cracked mirrors, flash Richter's. Skin pulled tight to the skull, that's the sickness. Seeping through my leaking windows and broke fixtures. Guess who in the vestibule like, you can't smoke that hair, mister?
That should about wrap it up for all the media that I consumed in 2025. I hope you found some good recommendations and some new artists to look into. I hope to do this again next year and have already set my New Year's resolution. In 2026, I hope to read 50 books again, with 10 of them being read analog style. I'm hoping to watch 120 movies this year and increase how many I see in the theaters. I want to write every single day and maintain a physical journal throughout the year. I hope to buy a bike and actually ride it, and finally, I want to actually start my YouTube channel, the one you're currently watching. So, if you like this video, my voice, my writing, and my editing style, then subscribe, because there's a lot more coming.
Una foto bonita, un atardecer hermoso, una bailadita, tu cadenita de oro. Estuvimos tan cerquita, mirándonos a los ojos. Dime si viste la pena de mi corazón roto, que lleva así mucho tiempo, que lleva así muchos años, escondiéndome los sentimientos. Tengo miedo que me haga más daño. Y lleva así mucho tiempo, que lleva así muchos años. Ay, yo no sé, mi amor, lo que la vida tendrá para ti y para mí. Si se da, pues se da, y si no, pues también. Vamos a disfrutar que la noche se puso bonita, pero no tanto como tú, jamás y nunca como tú. En mi vida fuiste turista, tú solo viste lo mejor de mí y no lo que yo sufría.